Hi, everyone, and welcome to Open Your Eyes to the Universe. I'm Gabrielle Martin, your host for this evening. Open Your Eyes to the Universe is a series of contemporary talks and conversations, open-eyed meditations, and interviews with people who inspire and uplift others just by sharing their wisdom, their insights, and their experiences of everyday living to co-create a better world. And as we begin Youniverse tonight, our team would like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional custodians of the land upon which we meet. And we pay our respects to the elders of the past, the present, and those emerging, and acknowledge their spiritual connection to country. We also acknowledge and respect the wise elder within us all and the collective wisdom of all those here this evening. You might recall that last month we were talking with Barcelona-based Martin Mataran about demystifying solitude. And in this conversation, we explored the very real possibility of living in solitude and yet being simultaneously actively engaged with others in our communities and in our world. And that's a very different conceptual approach to solitude as presented in centuries gone by when solitude was assigned to the esoteric, the elite monks, the nuns, the sannyasis, who followed a path of isolation, often cloistered in silence, speaking really, and having a singular focus on the divine. And in more recent decades, solitude is less mystified, yet perhaps it's more feared and associated with being alone and lonely. So based on her experience, Marta considers that solitude means spending time in silence, which enables us to get in touch with our pure original, our perfect self. And the more we understand ourselves, the more we're able to deal with the world and the situations that arise in a positive way. She suggested that developing this practice helps us move through even the most difficult times. It helps us maintain our self-respect and remain stable and happy, whatever situation we find ourselves in. And you can check that out in the chat box if you happen to have missed that episode. But this segues into our topic tonight, unlocking your inner power. Tonight, we're focusing on strengths, and we're in the company of Lourdes Aseneta, a certified Gallup strengths coach. Now, I know Maria, not by her professional name, but I know her as Leela. And she's asked me to refer to her during our conversation tonight as Leela. So I'll be talking about her, I'll be referencing her rather as Leela. So same person, just a different name there. But anyway, Leela is, she considers that strengths are not just what's good about you, but strengths are actually the best of you. That self-awareness of one's strengths, especially in the midst of adversity, can easily bring about the best solutions to any crisis. So she's really putting a different spin on this whole aspect of strengths. We're looking forward to her conversation with us this evening. So definitely there are infinite possibilities in developing what is right and good in people versus fixing what is wrong or weak in them. For Leela, from her professional and personal experience, she says that strengths are a source of magical spiritual power within you. I guess that's going to spark you off, a source of magical spiritual power within you. So let me tell you a little bit about Leela. She's an educator and consultant for nearly 3 decades and has coached individuals, teams, communities, and organizations to impact positive change in their personal and institutional lives. She's deeply committed to being an advocate for peace, people, and the planet. And she's worked with the Academy, with government, with business and non-government organizations on strengths coaching, sustainability, gender, governance, well-being, team development, and conflict transformation. Now, Leela completed her undergraduate degree in philosophy, her master's degree in theological studies, and her doctoral degree in communications. And she maintains that this dovetails with her profound hope to enhance the power of communication and the praxis and pedagogy of ethics and spirituality, be it peace, climate change, or any social endeavour. Leela has a soft spot for women and children, and she aims to awaken the immanent power of the feminine that breeds in each human soul in creating a more peaceful world. So tonight, Leela is going to focus firstly on unlocking the power of your strengths, and secondly, on embracing your inner power and how meditation helps in attaining this. Leela, welcome to Youniverse. It's really lovely to have you with us, and thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much, Gabrielle, for the very kind introduction. And thank you for having me in this wonderful program that you have tonight.
Yeah, and it's just such a pleasure to have you from Philippines, and we get a touch of the Philippines,
Yes.
which is gorgeous. And we're appreciating.
Yes, having a different face at least, no, from Asia. Yeah, it's good.
It's lovely, and we're appreciating your wall hanging behind you, giving us a bit of an insight
Thank
into.
you. It's my honor. It's my honor and privilege. My pleasure too.
Yeah, look, it's such an amazing topic, and really, you've got such experience in this area that I know we're going to be in for a very engaging hour together. But let's begin our conversation on unlocking your inner power with an understanding of the Golub strengths. Can you tell us about strengths from the perspective of Golub and your experience as a strengths coach?
Yes, I will be doing that, Gabriel. And let me first begin by how I became interested in this topic of strengths. So first, and definitely not just strengths, but inner power. So the theme of power has always fascinated me because it's really what makes the world move, right? Economic power, political power, wealth power, gender power. And all of these powers are external, as we know, but power is more than just these external sources of power, as I realized when I was becoming more mature in my understanding of my own spirituality, and also became more mature in my professional life as I dealt with power in relation to peace, because I'm also a peace educator. So that interest in power, both external power and inner power, has made me become interested to practice being, first learn and then practice being a strengths coach. So I've been a certified Golub strengths coach for several years now, where I help individuals and teams to discover the strengths and maximize their knowledge of strengths into having a better life. Because first, to learn who you are comes loving who you are. And after loving who you are, being able to live better who you are. So let me now move into introducing this topic in two parts, as you mentioned. The first part is about unlocking the power of your strengths, and the second part is about embracing your inner power. So I'd like to just share screen now.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I'd like to share screen now on the first part, where, okay, sorry, let me just stop sharing first. Okay, there we go with the screen that tells us that this conversation will be in two parts. Part one is unlocking the power of your strengths. Part two is embracing your inner power. And where we learn who we are, love who you are, live better who we are. And then, now next, can I have some, I just have some concern about going to the next slide. All right, so let me see. Okay, I think I'll manage. by clicking next. All right, so
It's
yeah, let me click next. Okay,
if you're from the keyboard, you could just
there
down
first.
arrow.
Yeah, there.
Yeah,
So first, I'd like to say that strengths is really a science. And Gallup has found that there's infinite potential in developing what is right with people versus fixing what's wrong with them. And particularly the inventor of this Clifton Strengths Finder, which is actually a tool to discover your strengths, is Donald Clifton, who's also the father of strengths-based psychology, recognized by the American Psychological Association. So he's the founder, and I've been certified by Gallup for this particular tool. And what they have discovered as they have made a research is that people who focus on using their strengths are 3 times more likely to report having an excellent life, 6 times as likely to be engaged in their jobs, and teams that focus on their strengths every day have 12 to 5% greater productivity. People working in their strength zone also look forward to going to work. They have more positive interactions with coworkers. They treat their customers better, they achieve more on a daily basis, and have more positive, creative, and innovative moments. So whatever is their business, whether it is, a corporate world that they're in, or a business where they have customers, they have clients, they have partners, or if you're an NGO, having beneficiaries, working on your strengths really makes you more positive, creative, innovative, and therefore more productive. Now, Gallup defines talent as the following. It is the way we naturally think, feel, and behave, which represents our innate strength and potential. So talent is known by what the kind of thoughts we have, the feelings we have, our behaviors, which tell us what we're strong at. So your best bet for success lies in building who you really are, not on trying to become someone you are not. And even in the Clifton Strengths Finder, even as the same questionnaire taken by everyone, there will always be a unique combination of talents that will surface as you take the questionnaire. Yeah, we may not be able to tackle the questionnaire in detail, but I will be getting to the talents that are included in that questionnaire. So there are 5 clues to talent. And how do you know if you have a particular talent? You yearn for it, you're drawn to it, you pick up easily on it, you also flow automatically, knowing the steps to be taken. And then the 4th, you have glimpses of excellence, meaning you're just surprised that I did well. I didn't expect, but I did well in that surprise you and even others. They just come to you and say that was good, and you yourself become surprised that even without much effort you did well in it, and you feel satisfied after doing it. You experience a kick while doing it. So these would be the 5 clues to talent. And for Gallup, and I'm going to show you now the 34 themes that you will discover when you take the questionnaire. And I know there are quite big words here, but let me just briefly explain those that seem unclear or can have some nuances. So adaptability, that's quite clear, being able to be flexible. Connectedness. Here, connectedness means you have a talent for feeling you belong to the world. So you connect to people, you connect to plants, you connect to animals, you have this sense of connectedness to the universe. And that's why, for example, I would say that those engaged in climate change and environment have this talent of connectedness. Developer would be a talent where you see even the littlest skill, something with a person, in a person, something you can develop to greatness. So you have an eye for that, seeing the gem in people, even if it's not yet fully developed. Empathy, that's easy, you can easily relate to the feelings of others. Harmony, you don't want conflict at all. You want always people to understand each other. Includer, okay. Includers value inclusion. So that means they would go for making sure everybody's given value, regardless of social class, gender, etc. So they are those who, people, for example, at NGOs who work for justice are very much into the includer talent. Individualization would be a talent where you value every individual as unique. You would treat them as unique and wouldn't want to treat them, just as numbers or just as a class or a nationality. So you value each one as they are. Positivity, that's quite easy. Relator, okay, that's quite easy. Also, somebody who's who takes a kick out of relating with people. Yeah. Having a connection. I mean, okay, now maybe I'd use the word having a relationship, not just a connection, but having a relationship with people. Analytical, okay, they're very, very, now first, I'd like to say that all those that I've mentioned are part of the domain of relationship building. So these are the talents for relationship building, because there are 4 domains of talents: relationship building, strategic thinking, executing, and influencing. Those are the 4 domains. So anything about relationships, the ones that are in color blue are the talents for the domain of relationship building. Now we go to strategic thinking. So the talents for strategic thinking would be analytical. So, if you like to break something into parts. Context, that's a talent where you want to always understand the context for everything, and context people always value the past, the history, which establishes the context of anything. Futuristic people, however, want to see the future. They're not concerned about the past, even in the sense of time. Future is important for them. Ideation. Okay, this is a talent of people who just love ideas and finding connection with ideas individually without even having to discuss them with anyone. So people who have ideation, usually introverts. Input, okay, that's a talent for those who just love data gathering, who just love looking into the science of everything and having inputs for that, having expansion of information. Intellection, okay, that's just a talent of people who like intellectual discussions, as compared to those who have the talent for ideation. They're happy with their ideas, but intellection, those who have intellection have to discuss their ideas with others. Yeah. Learner, that's quite easy to understand. Someone who's always wanting to learn new things. Strategic would be someone who always looks at the bigger picture. They may not be into details, but they are visionaries and they want to see the bigger picture. So they're always also good in planning on a larger scale. Now let's go to the domain of executing, right? So the talents for executing are achiever. So achiever, okay, one who wants to be able to do things well. Arranger, okay, this is a talented people, and you will see, you may know some people like this who just love to arrange things. So you see their kitchen, they all have labels, they arranged, their files are so arranged, their home is so arranged, they have a way of putting things in order. Okay, belief is a talent of people who just have strong beliefs that they'll fight for it, meaning to the point that sometimes they don't want to listen to the beliefs of others. That's the downside, because they will vouch, they can vouch for their beliefs to death. Consistency would be people who wish that people are treated well, but it's different from the includer. The includer wants everybody to be included regardless. Consistent is like, if you treat one person like this, especially if it's an executing domain. So you like that if I treat one employee like this, I have to treat another employee the same. Like the value for equality. Deliberative, these are people who want to study things very well before they decide. They won't jump into any decision before asking first questions, clarifying. So they don't easily make decisions very well, but they're very, very, very keen on details. Discipline, these are people who have the talent of like coming on time, being able to deliver on deadlines. Even their timetable is such that, they have to be there exactly. They have to follow their work plan. So they're very disciplined. Focus, okay? These are people who, no matter what, they'll be focused on what they're doing and not be distracted. Responsibility, that's easy. If you have people with that talent, you're going to make sure that whatever task is given to them is accomplished. Restorative, okay? This is the talent of people who want to correct things that have gone wrong. So they're restorative, whether it's with relationships or with maybe tasks that have gone wrong, they can find solutions to restore it. They won't give up on finding a way to get back and to get back in its something to get back to its good shape again. All right, for influencing, the talent themes are activator, which okay, this talent is okay. How would you see an activator? Someone who's a life of the party. Someone who wants people to be active. He easily would find it boring if there's no high energy in a team, for example, or in a family. Command, somebody who really wants to take command, make decisions, and even if he or she's not the leader, she would want to make decisions. That's someone with a high command. Communication, okay, that's quite easy. Someone who wants to talk, to explain, to reach out to people. So for someone who has a talent for translating thoughts into words. Competition, okay, these are people who revel in contests. You expect the best of them when they're competitive. Maximizer, okay, maximizer is a talent of one who develops a potential that already exists into its optimum. This is different from we saw one there, the developer sees something small, can make it big. The maximizer already sees a very big potential and would be able to develop that into greatness. The self-assurance is the talent of a person who's very, very self-confident, like doesn't need other people to be assured of himself or herself. Like no, she just knows, a very strong sense of self. Significance, okay. Significance would be the talent of people who want to be significant to others, meaning they are good in making themselves valuable to others. we may mistake this as egoistic, but it is not. It's just really a talent of making themselves visible, not because they have ego, but it's just that they just know their value and want that to be extended, to be manifested. A self-assured person may know himself, but does not need to be significant. Yeah, but the significant person wants to be valuable, even if she or may not be confident about the self. Now, the woo. Woo stands for winning over others. And these are people who are very good in winning people, meaning really, they're the people who, like I said a while ago, life of the party. This one is also a life of the party. They win people through their humor. For example, their very charming ways. Not necessarily, putting high energy into the group, which an activator does, but someone who by himself or herself alone with his own energy can win people over. So these are the four domains. And actually, I'd like now those who are online in YouTube, after I've explained all these four domains and themes, I'd like you now to reflect, introspect, and choose one talent from every domain that you identify as you. So do that now for a minute of reflection. Normally, as a strengths coach, there's a questionnaire that is answered in 30 minutes, after which you would be fed back of your top talents based on the questionnaire. For this conversation, we'll not be able to do that. But I think, as you know what are the things you yearn for, you have your glimpses of excellence, all things that you have a kick of doing. So just for a minute, just using your intuition, what would be your major talents? And for every domain, you can actually choose one or two, but choose one at least. So let's do that as you quietly go inside yourself, discovering who I am. Look into these talents and see which one you can identify. Write it in a piece of paper, because you may take a screenshot of these 34 teams and 4 domains, because you may not be able to go back to them later. But look into each one and ask yourself, which am I among these? So write them down, and no, don't stress yourself about being right in knowing what your talents are. Just enjoy guessing, having a good guess of what your talents are based from your experience. So if you're okay, we now go to the next. Now, what's the relationship of talent with strengths? Clifton, the founder, said that talent times investment is equal to strength. So it's not just that we have a talent, But whatever talent we have, we need to invest on that through our time, our practice, our resources, maybe studying more about it, maybe connecting with people who are good at it. Because by investing your time, your practice, your resources for developing your skills, your knowledge and capacities, those talents become your strengths. And strengths, so it's very, very important that we invest. I think, maybe you can, that's why maybe you can ask yourself, was there a talent when I was young that I really didn't invest on that I can go back to? Like sometimes how people would have like in their 60s, that's when they start to paint. Maybe because it was a talent that they didn't invest on when they were younger, and in their older years, they developed that. Now, strength, let's define it now, is the ability to consistently produce a positive outcome through a near perfect performance in a specific task. So by honing our talents, we end up actually by nurturing our strengths. And here, a strength is defined. Our strengths always leads to a positive, or even just not just positive, a very successful outcome. So a near perfect performance. And why near perfect? Because sometimes our strengths can be our drawbacks, right? So it does not become perfect. Like, for example, say your talent is in communication, yeah, or your talent, or let's just say, for example, okay, I'll mention mine. No, my in the questionnaire, my talents, one of my talents is actually includer. So as I explained, I can relate very much to those who value inclusion, regardless of race, nationality, gender. Always people are brought into family, into engagement. So because of that, you may be very good, say, in development work, which is my line of work. I'm into social development. But the drawback is you can be easily irritated by people who are not inclusive. Yeah, because you value it so much. So you will then not be including people who do not believe in inclusion. So in a way, it's also a form of an exclusion, right? So in other words, unless we're able to understand the drawback of our own strengths, we will fall into some form of a difficulty or a stressful situation because of that. Yeah. But if you're able to really optimize the strengths, it would be very close to perfection in anything you do. Now, when we use our talents to develop our strengths, three processes are involved. First is you have to learn who you are. So you have to know your talents. The next step is you have to love who you are. That means valuing your talents. And the third step is live better who you are. It means practicing your talents and turning your strengths and nurturing your strengths into success. So if you're not able to complete this process, your talents just remain talents, and they're not able to turn into strengths so you can live a life well lived. Yeah. So learn who you are, love who you are, live better who you are. And we know some people whom we know are very talented, but why do they get depressed? They don't value their talents. Yeah. So there are also some people who know their talents, value their talents, but they're not able to practice it. Maybe because they're in another job, or that doesn't nurture their talents, or they're suppressing, maybe out of fear, they're suppressing their talents. Yeah. So, but to be able to live a life well lived, all three are important. So, what I'd like us to do now is just to have a little bit of reflection for a minute. And this is the I am reflection. I stands for insight, A stands for application, and M stands for meaningful impact. So a while ago, I asked you to identify your talents. And this time, I'd like you to look into the talents that you've somehow invested on, that to this day, they have become your strengths. So what do your strengths mean to you right now? Meaning the talents you've invested on, what do they mean? In what ways, A is application, in what ways have you applied your strengths to your role recently? Some of you may be working as managers or as employees, as media people, as teachers, whatever, or in a medical field or wherever. Or you may be playing your role in your family as father, mother, brother, sister. So how you've applied that strength in your family. And then this meaningful impact. By applying your strength, did you see any positive results of applying them? The more we think about the positive results, the more we're inspired, encouraged to nurture or to invest on our talents and make them our strengths. And not just our positive results that we would be reflecting on, but also the drawbacks. So looking into your strengths, when was it that this strength became a drawback? So ask yourself that. So for example, again, in my case, one of my strengths is strategic thinker. A strategic thinker is one who always wants to look at the big picture. So the drawback is sometimes you're impatient with too many details. Yeah, because you want to see the bigger picture. You want to see the forest rather than the trees. So if people are focused on the trees and they're not looking at the forest, say in decision making, you can be a little bit impatient. So that's the drawback. And so as a team leader, it can be your drawback that you're not able to listen to everyone and the ideas that they present to you. So that's an example. So I'd like you to reflect for a minute and introspect on these questions. I am insight, application, and looking into the meaningful impact. So let's do this for a minute now on your own. Going inward into yourself. Look into the talents that you have invested on throughout your life. How did you apply them? And how do they impact your life, both personal and professional? Look into its positive results, as well as the drawbacks, the downside that you experience from these strengths. So slowly wind up your reflection as we go to the next slide. So strengths coaching uses the strengths-based approach to personal development. So in the strengths-based approach, we focus on each person's strengths. And what about their weaknesses? We manage around them. So what does this mean? So the priority would be on your strengths and by first is identifying your talents, developing them into your strengths. And that means you perform your best. You allow yourself to perform your best in any role you play using the talent that you are good at. Because in reality, people use different behaviors to deliver the same outcomes. So for example, you're a manager, a leader of your department or your team, and there's, say, team A, and there's another team leader of team B, and you're both leaders. But let's just say your talent, let's just say the talent of the team A is being a strategic thinker. So these particular leader will bring the team to visioning their future and how they can best achieve this future. Yeah. Another team, the leader may not be a strategic thinker, but very good in communication. So she or he is able to turn his thoughts into words. And because those words can turn thoughts into words, she may be a good pep talker, inspire people, so that they, as a team, are able to reach the company vision, for example. So in other words, both are able to be good leaders using their different talents. And if you're in a team, you will find out that because everyone has a unique combination of talent teams, you will find out that together as a team, if you all invest on your talents, that team can be exuding all the strengths necessary to be a successful team. Yeah. So the leader has simply used his own strengths and with other team members be able to develop the team into success. Now, weakness fixing, and why do we use this approach? Because weakness fixing prevents failure, while strengths building leads to success. Okay, so now, yeah, let me now stop sharing and just briefly share a little bit of being a strengths coach and how this has helped me, help me and help other people as well. So first, when I became a strengths coach, I became more aware of obviously my strengths. And I began with first looking into my own strengths, and only then was I able to help others. And what I have discovered is that, firstly, everyone has to love himself or herself. Every individual has to love the self uniquely as she is or as he is. Because sometimes when we want to be some other person, we miss on harnessing our own strengths. So first is really loving yourself as you are. Learn who you are, love who you are. And then when you're able to do that, it would be very, very easy for us to use our strengths, utilize them for our own personal life and professional life that lead into achieving greater results, at the same time having relationships that are positive. Because just as you learn, love, and live better who you are, you also allow people to do the same. And because of that, you're able to bring greater, you're able to bring about greater success in the family or in the company where you're working, focusing on the positive side of everyone, not on the negative, which is witness fixing. And if you notice, if a team, for example, is in witness fixing, and this is what I experienced with one team I gave strengths coaching to, is their time is wasted on talking about people's weaknesses, investing on how to improve them, and sometimes getting frustrated because they may have even invested a lot in terms of money on people to develop certain skills, but they don't end up developing them because it may not necessarily be their natural talents that have to be invested on, that turn out to be their strengths. Yeah. So it's very, very important that we value everyone for who they are, what they are. We don't put people or leaders, for example, in a mold that they should be this or that. There are qualities of a leader we wish, but everyone's talent will be different, and we have to start with their talents, nurtured into strengths, to deliver uniquely as they are. However, we know that that it takes time to be able to do this, and that's why investing our interest, our capacities for our talents, build on our strengths. So that winds up part one. Gabrielle, there is a part two. And if you wish, I can lead them into a meditation experience of part one, but you might want to ask anything. You're somehow muted. I can't hear you.
Got to. Thank you for that. I'm really appreciating the way that you've unpacked strengths for us, and I've been learning a lot by doing the exercises with you, but loving things like, 34 themes and 4 domains, making it really accessible in many ways, isn't it? To start thinking about your strengths in this way. But also that lovely point that you made that, when we're strengths focused, it brings out the best.
Yeah.
Brings out the best in us all.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's some I could really see a lot of benefit in understanding this approach and applying it personally. And those 3 steps that you talked of too, they were really resonating with me around, like the thing around learn, love, and live better.
True.
What a great equation that is. Yeah.
Yes.
Look, I think it would be really valuable for you to take us into a meditation experience now, just in having listened to
So yes, I will do that.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to invite everyone to take some moments to go inward. First, focus on your breathing. As you breathe slowly, inhaling and exhaling, allow your mind to be calm and peaceful. Turning inward, I allow the thoughts that are coming to my mind to be like clouds passing by. I let them flow. And I now focus on these 3 aspects of learning who I am, loving who I am, and living better who I am. Learning who you are just happened a few moments ago when we looked into our strengths. Reflect on them now. And how they have impacted your life. Knowing myself, I then value myself and these unique strengths that I have discovered that since I journeyed into this unique life of mine from childhood till my adult life, my own journey of life has allowed me to discover and value who I am. As I feel and love myself more, I see a vision of myself living better, who I am. investing myself more on my own greatness and uniqueness. And living better who I am. Learn, love, live who you are. This is the way to live a life well lived, happy, peaceful, love-filled, and successful. Let's bring ourselves back to the awareness of, from awareness of self into the awareness of our surroundings.
Linda, thank you for that. That was a very gentle way into really starting to explore our strengths and appreciate who we really are. It was a lovely meditation. Thank you for that. I'm kind of curious about this next step that you're going to take us through, and that's how we move from strengths to embracing our inner power. And I'd love to hear your journey of that as well. So please do share.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Yeah, actually, I'm excited to move into part 2 because aside from being a strengths coach, I've also been a meditator for 3 decades now. And my life wouldn't be meaningful without this, without including my own spiritual journey together with being a strengths coach. So let me now go to part 2. Let me share a screen now into part 2. Where I'm going to lead us into embracing your inner power. So embracing our inner power starts actually with self-value. So self-value has to do with the way we think about ourselves. Are we thinking of ourselves in a positive way or negative way? Do we downgrade ourselves? Or do we have such egoistic value for ourselves that you think you're greater than others? So what is our self-value? But this self-value naturally happens when you use your talents to embody your virtues in whatever action you do. So in strengths coaching, Gallup doesn't talk much about virtues, but because I'm a meditator, I've been into Raj Yoga for many years. Those talents, which I have mentioned a while ago, unless we put virtues into those talents, there will also be no self-value. No? So for example, you would know some people They're very talented. They're very, very good leaders, but very low self-value. Would even, sometimes, like how some have even committed suicide because of low self-value. They go into depression and don't see their life valuable, even if a lot of people praise them or they're idolized by many, a lot like that. And it's because there's very low self-value. But if there are virtues in the use of our strength, then the strengths become just like what? They're just like tools. They're just like your human facility or human capacity to express your virtue or to express your goodness. Now, we've been talking about virtue, but what is that? So let me just explain it further. So virtue is what is naturally good in every individual's inner self. And because it is naturally good in everyone's inner self, everyone has virtue. Everyone has the capacity to be complete, meaning to be able to exercise their virtues because they are innate. So virtue is inherent in every soul that creates and sustains their inner power. So without virtue, we cannot be powerful. We can be talented, but not powerful. We can be successful, but not powerful. Because what makes us powerful is virtue, our goodness. And because the virtue is our inner quality of goodness that is expressed through thoughts, through words and actions. If we just have a virtue in thoughts and we just talk about it, but we don't extrude it in action, it's not going to be expressed, then it's just lip service, right? It's not a virtue that you're living or embodying. So everyone has virtues. Some are better in some virtues than others. So some, you'd say, they say patience is a virtue because many people are impatient. But there are people who may be peaceful, but do not have love as their virtue. There are people who are loving, but not as patient. So every person would have their own virtues. So when we use our virtues for inner power, we also, the same process for the strengths. We need to know our virtues. We need to value them. Because to learn who you are is to know your virtues. To love who you are is to value your virtues. And to live better who you are is to embody your virtues. Yeah. So in meditation, we learn a lot about virtues, but we meditators know that even if we know all those virtues, and there are X number of virtues, different numbers of virtues, unlimited, meaning, like something inside us, some have virtues of label, some are a combination of virtues. We need to be able to love and ourselves for those virtues as our own. But to value them means you act on them. You are living them. And people see as well that you are living those virtues. So one time I was talking to, a friend who also practices meditation, and she was saying, yeah, I love silence, and I really I love silence, and it really makes me more peaceful. True, I said. I love silence too, but my effort is apart from the peace and silence. I'd like my silence or my yoga experience to be powerful. Yeah, so she asked, what do you mean by that? Because, for example, I had good meditation for an hour and I felt so peaceful. And after an hour, I got angry with someone or I criticized someone. It's already a signal or a sign for me that my yoga wasn't powerful. Because just 1 hour of peaceful experience, and then after an hour, I criticize or someone or I get angry. That means I didn't have the power during my silence to claim, to embrace the virtue of peace. So, in other words, we need to be able to live and embody virtues that we know about. So I'd like to invite you for a short exercise, because as I said, there are so many virtues and a combination of virtues. But what I have here are virtues that come from, the virtue cards that we have, the Brahma Kumaris. So we have them. I have them. Later, I'll show you the virtue cards we have. But what I'd like you to do is to ask yourself, what is the first virtue in this virtue cloud that has caught your eye and you can identify as you? I know you have many virtues, but for today, let's identify with one particular virtue. Or if you don't want to choose one, okay, you choose 3, but circle the one that's number 1 among those 3. So you can do that now. So you can look very carefully. Looking into those virtues, which one am I here? Maybe you have 10 out of the 40 plus here. Out of those 10, maybe you choose your top 3. And out of those top 3, you circle your top 1 virtue. Okay, you can take a screenshot if you wish. You may not be able to go back to this later. You can take a screenshot and choose your number 1 virtue. Winding up now. We go to the next slide. Okay. We further reflect with I am for insight. What does the virtue mean to you? Your number 1 virtue mean to you? Give your own definition. It doesn't have to be a dictionary definition, but as you live this virtue, what does it mean? If you chose, for example, happy, it's my virtue. So what does this mean to you? Well, this virtue means to me, I never allow myself to be sad. I also want to make people happy. Yeah, so that's what it means to you. Then A is application. In what ways have you applied this virtue to your role recently? Well, you know, because of my virtue of happiness, I I make people laugh at work or in the family. Or because I value happiness, I cook for people. I cook extra so that during lunchtime I'm able to share my food to others and make them happy because I cook with happiness and I share my food in happiness. Then next is meaningful impact. What were the positive results of this application? Oh, because of my happiness, the result is my team is very happy. My family always wants me to be there. When there are reunions, when there are celebrations, or they want to just call me because my happy energy lifts them up. So that's a result of my happiness. So, but what were sometimes the drawbacks? Well, maybe because of my happiness, I sometimes have toxic happiness, meaning even if I'm not happy, I want to show happiness. So I have a fake smile. So because I have a fake smile, I know I'm not very honest or this. So that virtue of happiness sometimes leads to my dishonesty to self. Yeah, because I I cannot allow people to see me unhappy. So those are examples of reflection points that you may have. So I showed one particular example. It's not my own example, but one particular example. So you can write your own now, reflect in it for a few moments. What does this virtue that I have chosen mean to me? In what ways have I applied this virtue to my role recently? And how meaningful was that? I look into the positive results of this virtue in my life, as well as the drawback or downside of this particular virtue I have lived. So now I move to the next slide. And in the next slide, it's still the same virtue cloud. But what I'd like you to reflect on is what virtue in this virtue cloud is catching your attention as a way to balance your first virtue. Because every virtue alone, by itself, can have its drawback. Just like as a virtue can have its divine image, or a virtue to an extreme without balance can be a devilish trait or irritable trait. So, for example, look at those same virtues in the virtue cloud. You're seeing it now. Happy, wise, cooperative, faithful, peaceful, creative, nurturing, practical, gentle, so on and so forth. dignified, healing. So, looking into those virtues, what is catching my attention is a way to balance my first virtue. So, a while ago, I shared the virtue of happiness. So, what is catching my attention to balance that first virtue? The virtue that is catching my attention is healing. Why? And this time I'll make it, like make it my own, not just an example, because even if happiness is my virtue, and thus I like to be happy, I want to make people happy, but I recognize that even if happiness is my virtue, certain experiences in my life have made me unhappy. And if I make if I make healing as my virtue, I'd be able to look back at those sad experiences in a way that I forgive, in a way that I'm able to see everything in a positive light, knowing that those sad experiences have made me who I am now. And so I'm happy with that. So healing would be the virtue I have chosen to balance my first virtue, because when I have healing as my virtue, I'll be honest as well with what needs to be healed. And then as I look into those aspects of myself which needs to be healed, I will naturally be happy no matter about my past. And so that's my balance for happiness. Okay, so you can do your own balancing act in this virtue cloud. Yeah. So you've taken a screenshot of that. So why are we talking about balance here? Why are we talking about another virtue, not to stand alone, but must have other virtues? It is because balance is the key to perfection. Balance is the key to perfection. If with strengths, you just reach near perfection in a performance of a task, if you practice, if you embody your strengths or you live your strengths with a balance of virtues, you will do your tasks with perfection. Because with the balance of virtues, you're able to utilize your talents as an expression of that balance. And with this key message that balance is the key to perfection, which leads to embracing our inner power, I'd like to share my own experience of claiming power briefly, and then I think we'd be ready for some questions later. I just want to say and share that I've been a meditator for almost 3 decades. And if there's one deep learning that I have, it is this. It is this lesson that balance is the key to perfection. Because everyone has their own goodness. Even if before I learned Raj Yoga, I knew of my own goodness. And I remember some of my friends saying, Leela, why do you have to practice meditation? You're good as you are. You're okay. You're okay. They said, why meditation? Why yoga? And at the time, of course, with the practice, I became vegetarian, so I could not go out as often with my friends, because they somehow they loved your company as well, and they valued your worth in the company, as you were, even without the spirituality. So at the time, I think I enjoyed so much the virtue of peace that I have gained from meditation. So I was very peaceful. I loved silence. I started to love being alone. But I think the virtues that I have embraced were not so much balanced that, they started to say, maybe they started to ask why. And they were asking why because they want you to go back to their old self, your old self, no? So I felt very peaceful. But I needed to balance that with other virtues, which I felt were there, but somehow I suppressed them. For example, sense of humor. I knew I had that. But then when I learned the meditation, I thought I had to be more serious. But then in Raj Yoga, I learned it's a balance of being serious and entertaining. So by just having a balance of serious and also entertaining, somehow it's like relationships also became better. They do not consider you as weird getting into meditation, into the lifestyle I got into. So I'd say that the balance led to my more perfect self, better self, if not perfect, a better self. And another aspect maybe that I needed to find balance is, when how you sometimes love silence, you can be a little distant towards people. Yeah, and you think it's okay, and you're enjoying myself alone. So I became a little distant. Of course, in terms of virtue, that's called detachment. It's attached. But then later, I realized that I just can't be detached, which is equal to distant in their understanding. And I think they felt I was distant because my virtue of detachment was not balanced with love. And so when I emerged love as a virtue in my life, not just detached, not distant, but detached as well as loving, my relationships with colleagues also started to be better. My family didn't consider me strange anymore. They love what I'm doing. They're also inspired to learn what I'm doing because of the balance of virtues that I have practiced. And so this is my own personal experience of balance. And for me, this is how I'm living my life right now of gaining inner power. Because without the balance of virtues, weakness comes in. Weakness comes in. You know, like, for example, you can be very, what is it? You can be very responsible. Yeah. So every task that you do, you're responsible at work or in the voluntary work that the voluntary service we do at the Brahmakumaris. So you're responsible. But at the same time, that responsibility has to be balanced with lightness or tolerance, because if you're just too responsible, you cannot take it when people make mistakes, right? You call out on their mistakes or complain about mistakes. And sometimes you're just too responsible. You don't want to delegate because you cannot trust that they can deliver it as good as you are. So there's ego there also. So you do it yourself. And so you don't delegate, and you end up as being so harassed and stressed in what you're doing. So I've learned to balance responsibility with lightness. So it's okay if people make mistakes. Yeah, you know it. Some correction will happen, some solution will come. And so you become very light, and people appreciate also your presence because of your lightness and happiness. So really, there are many examples of this balance. You have your own, and I wish I could hear your own, but I cannot do that and engage all of you now. But just sharing a bit of this balance in my life. And yeah, Gabrielle, you might wish to ask more questions.
Yeah, Leila, that's really lovely. There's been a lot of appreciative comments around your talk, but also the
Yes.
slides. They're really appreciating those, and would like to know if they can be shared. So, if people want them, we can send them to them if you're okay with that.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So all of you who've put in the chat box, you'd like to see the slides, we'll make sure that you get a copy of them. Leila, there's a question that's come in. What does strengths-based living look like? I mean, how would my life be if I always approach things from strengths-based?
Okay. First of all, I began with strengths-based approach, which is a scientific approach to a well-lived life based on the science of Clifton. Yeah, but I'd say that to complete it, it cannot just be a strengths-based approach to development in maybe in a professional way. But life is more than just our professional life, isn't it? It's a life of relationships, a life in family. So I'd say that to have a life that's both based on strengths and virtues is what will create a successful life.
Thank you. Another one coming in here too. You talked about meditation and how, you know, you looked at how you were responding in your meditations and developing virtues from them and wanting to make it powerful. I guess this question has been, you know, inspired by those comments. And it, how can you talk about your relationship with a higher being in meditation, and has it helped you develop more strengths and virtues?
Yes, definitely. I wasn't able to talk about that. But in meditation, in the practice of Raj Yoga, you don't just go inward into yourself, into the inner being, which is the soul, actually. Being not just seeing your, not owning to yourself as just this body, but knowing that I am this inner being, the soul. But that experience of the soul has to have also become stronger when there is a relationship with the divine, which is the supreme soul. And why does it become stronger? Because the supreme soul is the ocean of all virtues. The supreme soul is the source of all goodness. So until and unless I connect with the highest energy, I cannot also attain those virtues, which are a source of inner power for me. So it's a both inward and upward, as they say, movements of the meditation experience.
We're going to have to begin to close up now, it's been so engaging, and I really don't want to stop, but I think we're going to have to. Time is ticking by with us. But let's have a meditation commentary. It'd be lovely for you to be able to, take us into virtues and into a meditation space, and perhaps even a connection with the divine. But as you wish, it would be a lovely way to.
Okay, let me do that. Yeah, time flew so fast, Gabrielle.
Been wonderful.
So now, once again, we spend time for our inner quiet. I turn inward. In the awareness of my inner being. The light, the being of light that I am, at the center of my forehead. I am light. I, the soul, am radiating the light of peace. Peace is my original virtue. Peace is who I am. And in this awareness of peace, I allow myself to be embraced by the light, the source of peace, God, the supreme light. The light of God is embracing me now with so much love, unconditional love, uniquely as I am, with my own strengths and virtues. The supreme light embraces me out of darkness. I am now into the light. And with this light, I have greater clarity of my mind. I know who I am. I value who I am as I am. I don't need to be someone else. I am as I am, valuable and loved as I am. And with the awareness of my innate goodness, embracing myself, together with the embrace of God's love and light, I live my life with goodness. I live my life with a balance of virtues that are within me, They are not outside me that I need to look for in anyone or anything. Those virtues are all inside me, and I just have to claim them as my own. Claiming those virtues, I attain balance. And this balance is the key to leading the best life I could ever live on this earth. In living that life, I live a life of peace, love, happiness, and success. Taking power from the Supreme Light, the source, the ocean of all virtues and powers. For a few moments, I stay in this space of inner peace and love, embraced by the love of God.
Thank you, Leela.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
You know, it's a special thanks to you, you know, for sharing your, you know, your wisdom, your life experience-based wisdom, and that practical understanding that you've got of strength and virtues. And I can tell that you've really applied it in your life. You've honed it and made it your own. And it's been a pleasure too that for us to for you to have shared your meditation journey with us as well. I think that's been very magical. And I know you said that there's spiritual magic in strengths and virtues, and I think you've really showed us that. And you've made it into a very spiritually magical evening for us. So our blessings and our thanks to you, Leela, very much.
Thank you. Thanks from my heart also, Gabrielle.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone for listening. Yeah.
There's been so much positive expressions happening in the chat. So very much I'm hoping you feel our love for you and our appreciation for you, for the evening with you.
Sharing my love to everyone too.
Really lovely. Thank you so much. And we'll be in touch again and we'll share the slides.
Thank you. Thank you as well.
Well, viewers, as we close out tonight, there's a few things to let you know about. You might like to browse our online bookshop, Eternity Inc., and it has a full range of online books on self-empowerment. You'll find the virtue cards that Leela referred to and other lovely little treats to help you on your spiritual journey. And as always, they're at not-for-profit prices. And if you'd like to subscribe to Open Your Eyes to the Universe and receive monthly updates, please email us at special.events@au.brahmakumaris.org. And our next episode of Open Your Eyes to the Universe is on Saturday, the 22nd of July, same time, 6 p.m. AEST. You'll note it's not June, but July. So I'm going to tell you why that's the case. We're skipping an episode in June of Open Your Eyes to the Universe as we have a special guest from India visiting Australia, Sister Janti, coming to Australia from the 16th to the 27th of June. And she'll be visiting 4 cities, Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, and Brisbane. I think that you probably know Sister Janti through her soothing, deep meditation commentaries, and you've probably seen her on YouTube and listened to some of her very insightful talks and seminars on a wide range of topics, where she really applies spirituality and spiritual solutions to everyday situations that we all encounter in the course of our lives. Sister Janti is the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. It's the world's largest spiritual organisation to be led by women. and she's a spiritual teacher, a much sought after international public speaker. She's an author, a visionary leader, and guided by spiritual values and principles. There's much to say about her, and but more importantly, there's a chance that you might be able to be with her in person. So instead of joining us online, we welcome you to her public programs in Sydney. And Pete's going to put up the slide now so you can see where she's going to be speaking. If you happen to be in Sydney on Wednesday, the 21st of June, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., she'll be speaking at the Wesley Conference Centre. That's in Pitt Street, Sydney, and her topic is Build Inner Resilience, Empower Your Life. In Canberra, she'll be taking up the topic Women's Leadership in Troubled Times, a dialogue across cultures and religion, So that's women's leadership in troubled times, a dialogue across cultures and religions. And Reverend Stephanie Dowick will join Sister Janti, as will Professor Karima Lakir, the head of the Arabic and Islamic Studies at the ANU, and also Professor Kim Rubenstein from the University of Canberra. That's happening on Tuesday, the 20th of June, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m, and it's at the Chapel Bergman College in Daly Road. In Brisbane, if you're living in Brisbane, you too can have the chance to catch up with Sister Janti and obviously even ask her questions in her public talks. And the topic there in Brisbane is You Are Enough, Turn Life Experiences into Wisdom. That's Monday, the 26th of June, 6:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. And that's at the Brahma Kumaris Centre in 11 Boyd Street, Nunda in Brisbane. Now you can book at www.brahmakumaris.org.au. On the landing page of the website, you'll see those 3 cities. You click on that and it'll take you to a space where you can book yourself into one of those events. They're free of charge as service to our communities. And you know what? We'd really love to see you in person. So please do join us. So as we close out tonight, we do what we always do, which is play a song for you. And this one is from Bliss and it's called You. And it is so much the focus of tonight's talk with Leela. So I'm hoping you'll enjoy it. Until we see you again online on the 22nd of July, take care, walk lightly on this earth, focus on your strengths, and appreciate your own magnificence and that in others. Okay, bye for now. Om Shanti.